I am Zuleika Magana.
I'm Candy Romero. Welcome to the Bearcat News Network. Today is Togetherness Tuesday.
We please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas Pledge. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to free Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. For this week's Togetherness Tuesday, we're going to do another 60-second relay quiz. Talk to your neighbors. What is your most prized possession?
Girls track practice will begin Monday, February 13th after school. Students must have a doctor's physical turned in and all online forms completed in order to attend. If you have questions, please see Coach Jordan.
Message from the librarian, Mrs. Camp. On the library door, there will be sign-up sheets for anyone who needs a new ID or needs assistance with their Chromebooks. Students are to put their names on the list, and they will be called to the library when it is their turn. I'll be handling IDs on Mondays and Chromebooks on Tuesdays.
Also, there are a lot of library materials checked out to students that are late being returned. I am offering a grace period throughout February, during which time the students will be allowed to return any late materials without fines. I am offering a grace period throughout February, during which time the students will be allowed to return any late materials without fines. Starting March 1st, fines will be assessed to any late returns.
Teachers, please remind your students to check out the book of the week and the quote of the day in the library.
We are continuing our week-long feature on Jack Johnson, the first black heavyweight champion. Join us as we delve into the incredible story of Jack Johnson, the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, from his humble beginnings in Georgia.
The name Jack Johnson is synonymous with the fight for racial equality and the rise of the African American boxer. Born in 1878 in Galveston, Texas, Johnson overcame incredible odds to become the first African American heavyweight champion of the world in 1908. but his story goes far beyond the ring. This is the story of a man who refused to be defined by the color of his skin and fought for respect and equality in a world that was not ready for it. Jack Johnson's rise to fame was met with resistance from the white establishment, who saw him as a threat to their power and dominance. Despite this, he continued to fight and win against white opponents, including the reigning heavyweight champion of the world, Tommy Burns, in 1908. This victory made him the first African American heavyweight champion of the world, and his win sparked nationwide celebrations among African Americans. But his reign as champion was not without controversy. He was arrested multiple times on trumped-up charges and faced discrimination both inside and outside the ring. Despite this, Jack Johnson refused to back down and continued to fight for respect and equality, both in the ring and in his everyday life. He became a symbol of black excellence and defiance in the face of racial oppression. This is the story of a true trailblazer who broke down barriers and paved the way for future generations. Jack Johnson's victory over Tommy Burns in 1908 made him the first African American heavyweight champion of the world, and it was a historic moment for the African American community. Johnson's achievement was celebrated by African Americans across the country as it was a symbol of progress and black excellence. However, the white establishment did not take kindly to this victory, and they tried to discredit Johnson and strip him of his title. The search for the Great White Hope to defeat Johnson in the ring became a national obsession, with many white boxers being touted as the one to dethrone him. Johnson's reign as champion was marked by constant racial discrimination and harassment, both inside and outside of the ring. He was arrested multiple times on trumped-up charges, and was eventually convicted of violating the Mann Act, which prohibited the transportation of women across state lines for immoral purposes. He was sentenced to prison, and his license to fight was revoked. This effectively ended his career as a professional boxer. Despite these setbacks, Johnson continued to fight for respect and equality, both inside and outside of the ring. He traveled to Europe and fought in exhibitions where he was treated as a celebrity and a champion. He returned to the United States in 1920 and lived the rest of his days as a successful businessman and advocate for the rights of African Americans. He opened his own nightclub, operated a fleet of taxi cabs, and even starred in a Hollywood film. Johnson's legacy extends far beyond the ring, as he was a trailblazer for not just African American boxers, but for all African Americans. He was a symbol of black excellence and defiance in the face of racial oppression. He continues to inspire generations to this day, and his story serves as a reminder of the impact one person can have when they refuse to back down in the face of adversity. Jack Johnson's story is one of determination, resilience, and courage in the face of adversity. He refused to be defined by the color of his skin and fought for respect and equality in a world that was not ready for it. He shattered barriers and paved the way for future generations of African American athletes and trailblazers. He faced constant discrimination and harassment, both inside and outside of the ring, but he refused to back down. He was not only a champion in the ring, but also a champion for civil rights, who stood up for himself and his community.
There are some new after-school clubs starting at Central. If you're interested in designing and building stage props, costume design and sewing for theater, 3D printing, laser cutting, filming, editing, production, photography, and more, you might want to join the engineering club, costuming club, media club, or all three. If you're interested, fill out a Google form at the bottom of the flyer. It is located in the Bearcat Necessities newsletter and the Central Students Canvas page. Meetings will take place from 3:15 to 5.
Here is today's riddle.
You know what time it is. It's time for Time Rewind.
3,000 screaming teenagers are at New York's Kennedy Airport to greet, you guessed it, the Beatles.
It's Time Rewind for February 7th. Beatlemania breaks out in 1964 as the Beatles visit the U.S. for the first time. Later that day, the lads from Liverpool are guests on The Ed Sullivan Show, becoming the first British musical act to appear on American TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
Fast forward to 1984. 170 miles above Earth, Navy Captain Bruce McCandless becomes the first human to fly untethered in space. He exits the Space Shuttle Challenger and maneuvers with a jetpack.
Small step for Neil, but it's a heck of a big leap for me.
On this day in 2001, Queen of the West Dale Evans dies. Evans was the wife of country western singer and movie star Roy Rogers. She wrote their biggest hit, which they sang together for 50 years.
Happy trails.
That's Time Rewind. I'm David Mendel.
And that's your Bearcat News for today.